My dear friends, sometimes the biggest shift in your life happens the moment you realize leadership isn't about you, it's about the people you show up for. Let me say this straight, most people think leadership means talking louder, standing taller, and having all the answers. But the leaders who actually change things, they're the ones who know when to step back, listen, and truly understand the people standing in front of them. Listening doesn't mean staying quiet until it's your turn to speak. It means letting someone else's reality matter to you. It means slowing down long enough to ask, what's really going on here? And then caring enough to stay present for the answer. I've seen what happens when leaders don't listen. Decisions get made from conference rooms instead of communities. Problems pile up because no one at the top feels the consequences at the bottom. People stop speaking up. They stop believing anything will change. And when people stop believing, progress stops. Period. But when you lead by listening, everything shifts. You start hearing the frustration beneath the words. You start noticing the ideas that never make it onto the agenda. You begin to see the quiet leaders, the ones who don't fight for the microphone, but who carry entire neighborhoods on their backs. And suddenly, leadership becomes less about directing people and more about standing beside them. Listening takes humility. It means admitting, I don't know everything. It means putting your ego on mute and letting reality speak. And yes, sometimes you'll hear things that are uncomfortable. Sometimes people will tell you how systems failed them, how they feel ignored, how promises have been broken too many times before. That can sting. But that discomfort is where authentic leadership begins. Because once you've listened, you can't unhear. You can't walk away pretending you don't know better. Listening gives you responsibility. It hands you the truth and then asks, now what are you going to do with it? And here's the powerful part. When people feel heard, something wakes up inside them. They feel like they matter. They start sharing ideas. They start showing up differently. They begin to trust that their voice has weight, not because you promised it does, but because you proved it. Great leadership doesn't happen in speeches or slogans. It happens in conversations. It happens when you sit with someone and say, tell me, I'm here, I'm listening. And then you actually build from what they shared. If there's one lesson that can change everything, it's this. Leaders don't create change by pushing people. They create change by standing with them, hearing them, and letting their voices shape the path forward. And if you can master that, if you can lead with your ears before your mouth, you won't just be in charge of something. You'll be trusted with something. And that's where real leadership truly begins. Here's something we don't talk about enough. A lot of people want the title of leader, but what they really want is control. They want the authority, the spotlight, the ability to say, do it my way. And sure, control can feel powerful, but it's not courage. Real courage is something quieter, heavier, and far more honest. It's the willingness to take responsibility when things go wrong and still stay at the table ready to fix it. A true leader doesn't hide behind excuses. They don't point fingers the second pressure shows up. They step forward and say, if this didn't work, that's on me, and I'm going to help make it right. That's not weakness. That's strength with backbone. Because let's be real, control is easy. Anyone can force decisions. Anyone can shut people down, push past objections, rush to the end just to prove they were right. But responsibility? That means listening to criticism, being open to learning, and accepting that sometimes you could have done better. It means admitting when your plan wasn't the best idea in the room and choosing the better idea anyway, even if it didn't come from you. And people notice that. They notice when you choose accountability over ego. They notice when you don't disappear during difficult conversations. They notice when you're honest about mistakes instead of pretending they didn't happen. That honesty builds trust faster than any speech ever could. Responsibility also means recognizing the weight of your decisions. When you lead, your choices ripple outward. They affect families, jobs, safety, opportunity, real lives. A responsible leader doesn't rush through decisions just to check a box. They pause. They ask questions. They look at who might be impacted and whether the outcome is fair. That doesn't mean you'll always get it perfect. No leader does. But responsibility says, even when the outcome isn't ideal, I won't walk away. I won't hide. I'll stay and work with you until we move forward. And here's the surprising truth. When people see you owning your role instead of controlling theirs, they lean in. They feel safer bringing ideas. They feel braver speaking the truth. They start taking responsibility too. Responsibility is contagious in the best possible way. Control shuts doors. Responsibility opens them. Control says, my way or nothing. Responsibility says, let's figure out the best way together. So if you want to practice courageous leadership, don't ask yourself, how do I stay in charge? Ask, how do I stay accountable? Ask, who might be affected by this decision? And how do I show up for them? Because leadership isn't proven in the moments where everything goes smoothly. It's proven in the messy moments, when plans fall apart and pressure rises. That's when real leaders step forward, take responsibility, and help carry the weight, not because they want control, but because they genuinely care about the people it affects. That's courage, and it changes everything. Let's talk about trust for a second, because without it, leadership is just noise. You can have a microphone, a title, even a crowd, but if people don't trust you, nothing real happens. And here's the part that surprises most people. Trust isn't built in big speeches or dramatic announcements. It's built quietly, in the small, everyday moments that nobody claps for. Trust grows when people see consistency, when what you say on stage matches what you do off stage, when your promises aren't just clever lines, but commitments you actually follow through on. Anyone can make a bold statement. Not everyone can show up again the next day, and the day after that, living it. Think about the people in your life you truly trust. It's probably not because they're perfect. It's because they show up. They answer when you call. They're honest, even when honesty is uncomfortable. They don't disappear when things get complicated. That's the energy real leadership needs. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is assuming people will trust them simply because they're in charge. But trust isn't automatic. It's earned over time. And it's lost fast when people feel ignored, dismissed, or used. When leaders talk about community but never stand inside it, people notice. When they make decisions about others without involving them, people notice. When apologies never come, even when they should, people definitely notice. But the reverse is true too. People notice when a leader remembers their name. They notice when you take 5 minutes to ask how their family is doing. They notice when you follow up on something they mentioned weeks ago. Those moments may feel small, but they carry more weight than most policy papers ever will. Trust is also built when you're transparent. Not everything will go perfectly. Sometimes the answer truly is, I don't know yet. Instead of pretending, a trustworthy leader says exactly that and explains what they're doing to find the answer. That honesty creates connection. It reminds people that leadership isn't about being superhuman. It's about being human and still willing to stand up. And here's something important. Trust grows when people see you stand with them when it's inconvenient. It's easy to support someone when it costs you nothing. It's different when you risk criticism, when you challenge systems, when you refuse to stay silent just because silence is easier. Those are the moments people say, okay, this person is actually with us. The beautiful thing about trust is that once it starts to build, it multiplies. People begin to believe again. They share more openly. They take initiative. They help carry the work forward because they don't feel like spectators anymore. They feel like partners. So if you want lasting leadership, don't chase dramatic gestures. Pay attention to the quiet opportunities, the promises you keep, the conversations you honor, the people you refuse to overlook. That's where trust lives. And when trust is present, real change doesn't just feel possible, it finally becomes achievable. If there's one truth I wish every leader could carry with them, it's this. People don't just want solutions, they want to feel seen. They want to know that their experiences, their struggles, and their hopes are part of the conversation, not something brushed aside as complicated or later. When people feel invisible, they disconnect. But when they feel seen, something powerful happens. They step forward. Real change doesn't start with policies or programs. It starts with human dignity. It starts when someone says, your story matters here. And I don't mean saying that as a slogan. I mean showing it through actions, through inclusion, through decisions that actually reflect the lives of the people affected. There are communities that have waited years to be acknowledged. Families who feel like their voices bounce off the walls of systems built without them in mind. And honestly, it's not because people in power always intend harm. Many times they simply haven't taken the time to understand. Leadership that changes lives is leadership that chooses to understand and then refuses to look away. Seeing people means inviting them into the process. It means making room at the table for perspectives that have been pushed aside. Sometimes it means slowing down decisions because you realize the conversation isn't complete yet. That can frustrate those who just want quick results. But quick results without inclusion rarely create anything that lasts. When someone feels seen, they begin to believe their voice counts. They start offering ideas they once kept quiet. They advocate for their neighbors. They find courage they didn't know they had. And suddenly, leadership isn't just something happening out there, it becomes something alive within the community itself. Here's the mistake some leaders make. They think they have to be the hero. But the most impactful leaders don't try to be heroes. They build spaces where everyone gets to participate in the story. They understand that real change is shared. It's created by collaboration, not command. And there's another layer to feeling seen: accountability. When you acknowledge someone's reality, you inherit a responsibility to honor it. That means staying engaged even when solutions take time. It means being honest about limits, but relentless about effort. It means coming back to the table again and again, because people's lives are worth that persistence. When everyone in a room feels seen, the parent, the worker, the student, the elder, the tone shifts. Conversations deepen. Assumptions soften. Creativity expands, and the direction of a community can change faster than anyone expected, not because someone forced it, but because people finally felt connected to it. That's the leadership lesson that truly can change everything. Listen deeply, take responsibility, build trust, and create spaces where people feel seen. When you do that, leadership stops being about authority and becomes about impact. And the impact lasts not because it came from one person, but because it awakened the strength, the dignity, and the voice already living inside so many others.